You have too many drivers now.
I have too many drivers now. I need more business. And, you know, last month I didn't have enough drivers. I was going to hire another one. And I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going to wait.
Welcome back to NEMT Experts. I've got a special guest with me, a friend of mine who's been advising us at Bambi for 2 years now, Patricia Curnan, the owner of Prime Medical Transport in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Pat, how you doing?
I'm great, Nirav. Thanks for having me.
Pat, you've been running Prime Medical Transport for quite a while now in Cape Cod. How many years has it been?
11.
11 years.
Yep.
And now you're operating with 13 vehicles, right?
Correct.
And you do a mix of ambulatory, wheelchair, and stretcher work all throughout Cape Cod and even outside of Cape Cod a bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit on the South Shore, Massachusetts.
Okay. 11 years is quite a long time. I'd love to just, for the audience, get sort of a breakdown of your business. So, like, how many of each type of vehicle do you have? And, like, what's your sort of trip volume and where do you get your rides from?
Sure. We have 13 vehicles. 10 of them are wheelchair vehicles. Two of those are also able to handle stretchers. And then we have 3 just regular sedan or minivan vehicles for ambulatory work.
Okay.
And volume-wise, we average about 65 trips a day. And we run on average about 11 and a half, 12 vehicles a day. So we have a little bit of leeway. A couple of days they're all full each week, but there's a little leeway in terms of a backup vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the breakdown of, like, your different sources of trips? Like, you do a little bit of broker work, you do private pay work, you work with facilities around the area. Like, where are your ride requests coming from?
So it's a real mix, which I think is important in terms of the growth. You're not relying on one source all the time. So the majority of our trips are from the nursing homes, for transport to doctor's appointments, you know, a little bit of social trips, out to dinner, or, you know, family events, things like that. We had a couple things this last week, which was fun. And so then that's I don't have a percentage of what that is.
But there's a good diversity.
I wish I did. So the one segment of our transport is from the nursing homes. We have another segment from the rehab hospital locally on the Cape, which is Spalding Rehab. And then we have 3 different brokers that we work with on the Cape and the South Shore.
Okay.
So our private pay is about 60% of our business, and 40% is the brokers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to change that ratio in any way, or are you good with how it is?
Yeah, we've been evolving over the last few years to do more focus on private pay. That's why we're expanding really to the South Shore, more off Cape, and try to get the private pay, which is much more profitable than the broker work.
Okay.
But I think too, the mix is important, and partially the broker work is really the Medicaid level of care, level of program. And I think it's important to service that, be available to service that community as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Pat, 11 years is a long time. It's not often
you
that
keep saying that.
I mean it.
I know it's a long time. Usually every 6 years I change jobs or professions. So this is a long time, almost double now.
Almost double. Pat, can you do this for me? Can you give me like sort of a rough sort of like, hey, here's how the business started 11 years ago. Here's where we are now. Just give me like a sort of a timeline of like how the business has evolved over the course of these past 11 years.
We started in the end of 2013, and I started with 2 vehicles. I had been taking care of my own mother who had a stroke, and had looked around for transportation, and there was really nothing available except for the old high top wheelchair vans, really clunky, that the ambulance company ran, and it was didn't seem, safe or clean or anything. So I had seen these other vehicles being made out of Dodge Grand Caravans and said, well, let's try that. So we opened up here on the Cape, which is a large community of retirees, and somewhat like Florida. And we grew from there, from introducing ourselves to the local nursing homes, and were very well received. And just about the first 3 years, we doubled every year our vehicles. And then we got up to about 8. We're up to 10 vehicles just before COVID, or at COVID. And then through COVID, certainly cut back the first year or so. And then we've grown from that. But our focus has really been from trying to get more private pay and not grow, at a rapid pace, but at a steady pace.
So over the course of these past 11 years, would you say that your vehicle count has sort of increased linearly over the years, or was there a time when you really rapidly increased your vehicle count, which is now at 13?
Right. We've gradually increased. It's a kind of almost a straight line. Yeah.
Okay.
So every year adding 1 or 2, and then replacing a few, and yeah.
So Pat, what about the next 11 years? Continue to be in a straight line?
The next 11 years should be a little bit of a straight line. I'm hoping that, we might add 3 or 4 vehicles between this year and next year, once we get the South Shore underway, get some more nursing home contacts up that way.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we're adding a new Broda chair, the Broda Traversa, which is a stretcher chair, and that will help us in that higher end mode of transport.
Okay. So that'll be a big jump. Like over 11 years, you've added 13 vehicles sort of linearly, and now this year you're adding on like something around 4 more.
Yeah, I think between, so it'll be like 2 this year, 2 next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning before, like on the average day, it's like 11.5 vehicles on the road doing trips, and you're doing something like between 60 and 70 trips a day, right?
Yes.
And so the average, so last month, you mentioned your revenue number was what?
Last month, 143,000.
And that was your best month ever.
Right.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So like annualized, what are you doing typically in a year? I mean, let's say in the past year.
The number of trips?
I mean, just revenue wise, top line revenue.
Okay. So top line revenue last year was $1.3 million. And this year probably should be about $1.5 million, $1.6 million, depending.
Okay.
What happens? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're
about 20% growth.
Okay.
We're on track for that right now. Yeah.
25% growth?
Yeah.
It sounds like, at this point, you're not complacent at all. You're growing this business. I mean,
Right.
what are your plans over the next 3 years in terms of like where you want to be, revenue wise, vehicle wise, business wise?
The growth is important, because you just have to keep growing. You have to keep evolving in business. But part of that is to get more profitable at the same time, not just to grow for growth's sake. It has to be a smart growth that allows the profit in utilize your resources so that you can drive more profit.
And what are the ways in which, aside from just revenue growth, you're finding are ways to improve your profit?
So going after the private pay sector, advertising to people at home. Since COVID, a lot of people are taking care of their loved ones at home versus putting them in a nursing home. They're trying to figure out ways to do that. We kind of partner with the home health care agency level of agencies, and they're a big source of referrals. The rehab hospital that we've gotten recently is a large source of revenue now, and we're really excited about the new Broda chair, the Traverse.
Yeah, the Traversa.
The addition of the Traverse chair, and try to focus on, maybe we could add 2 or 3 or 4 of those. I'm not sure. Kind of see, how well it's received in the nursing homes, and if they're paying for the trip, and this is going to save them money, and it's safer for the patient, then I think that's a win-win all around. So, and that will drive a much more profitable trip. So that's I have one on order.
Oh, you've already ordered it?
Yeah, we have one. We've had a I forget what they call it, Broda synthesis, for about 5 years, and it's the same chair, lays down flat. You can transfer people over laterally, but it doesn't. There's no ability to pump it up or down, move it up or down. It's static,
right,
at one level, like 18 inches off the floor, and so it's great for the patient, comfort wise, and long distance, or going to Boston, or people that can't sit up for that whole ride, or can't lie down either. It's that in between. It's like a recliner on wheels, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can maneuver it to get them to fit in it, without much tension.
This new Broda chair, it's basically going to let you do stretcher trips, but instead of having a driver and an attendant, you'll just need one person who can then do stretcher trips.
Right.
That's a game changer.
It is a game changer. It's a little concerning in terms of the transfer, because the facility or the doctor's office is not always willing to help.
Okay.
Yeah. And transferring one person to, unfamiliar settings,
Like transferring them from the bed to the Broda chair?
Correct. Or in the doctor's office from the Broda chair to the table, to the exam table, or to the x-ray, or whatever, CAT scan, whatever they're doing.
Have you heard of No Lift NEMT?
Oh yeah, that's who sold me the other one.
Okay.
What's his name?
Travis Straney.
Travis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the whole thing with him.
Okay. How was that?
It was good. Yeah.
What are the metrics that you measure for your business on a day-to-day, month-to-month level to, sort of measure, you know, how
Yeah.
the business is performing.
Right, because you have to measure.
Yeah.
You have to know what's going on. So on a day-to-day basis, I measure what our labor percent is. And I come from a service industry business where labor is your biggest expense, which it is here. We're running a service. So I don't pay attention too much to the price per mile or the miles driven, that kind of thing. But if our payroll is in line, then everything else kind of falls in line. So that's really, kind of the key metric. When that's out of balance, then you can see maybe we're driving too much out of our way to get someplace, and or they just don't. They're sitting around, too much dead time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So now we've launched this whole training block of training kind of segment, so that when somebody has some downtime, they can come in and look at our YouTube channel and do some training versus just sitting out, running the vehicle.
Okay. You have like training materials that your employees have to go to and do when they don't have other things to do for the business.
Exactly.
It's interesting. So the metric that you're measuring is the total amount that you're paying for labor versus the amount that your company's bringing in as revenue.
Correct.
And that's not something that I hear often that other NEMT businesses measure. It's always the things like, the cost per mile and, like all of those sort of, more, I guess, sort of routing kind of measures.
Right. And I think it's just because I don't come from that world.
Yeah.
And labor's our biggest expense. So if we can control that, everything else should fall into place. Yeah. When our labor is on, if I'm shooting for like 30% labor, and you probably could really get to 28%. But I think that the 28 to 30% labor really helps you manage all the other criteria. Your cost per mile is your labor in your car. Your car, is kind of, it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Your gas, your mileage, your cost per mile is relative, but the labor, once that gets out of whack, then you're not going to make it.
Right. So like putting it numbers wise, you're saying that for the amount of revenue that you're bringing in, like 30% of that should be how much you're paying for labor. So assuming that you do $1.5 million over the next year in top line revenue, 30% of that is $450,000. So you should be paying no more than $450,000 on labor costs if you're bringing in $1.5 million of revenue.
Right. So we look at that on a daily basis, see what happens, see what, if too many trips canceled, where do those come from? We dig into it from there. Did we take trips that weren't profitable? And that's our fault, So if we're looking at labor all the time, it really, other things take care of themselves.
I see. Okay. So the labor costs is sort of a starting point for you. You do measure like, hey, all your different sources of trips, cancellations, like the profitability per payer count or source of trips and the cost, even probably per mile. But that all comes after you're looking at labor and then seeing, what's feeding into that, labor versus revenue metric.
Exactly. If the labor's off, then you messed up on your sales.
Okay.
You didn't price things correctly, or you got so many broker trips that day, you're just not going to make any money. So in the labor, the 28 to 30% is just the drivers. You can have another 10 to 12% overhead for admin.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of standard in terms of service business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was going to ask you, what's your secret sauce for, having this kind of longevity, having this business going strong for 11 years, but
Yeah.
it seems like, that's really it. You just focus on this metric and
Right.
everything that feeds into it about the labor costs.
Right. And I think that the longevity part of it is you have to have fun at this. Your employees have to have, feel like they're cared for and well paid um,
Yeah. I mean, what's the point if you're not having any fun?
exactly. You know that, right? You have to have some
Totally.
fun. If you're not having fun, then it's hard enough every day. You have to let the employees have fun. You have to make sure they're well trained and that they feel that they're experienced at their job and that they can handle anything that arises, so that they're able to offer the best service out there. And that's one thing that is not compromised. And I think in the old ways of NEMT, it was just an afterthought because it wasn't well paid. And as things change around in the field where there's more revenue in that area, in this area, the drivers get paid more. You're asked to do more. There's more certifications for the drivers to have and be eligible to transport people. So it's important to stay on top of that as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like you pay your drivers well, and then you trust them. You give them autonomy to do whatever they need to do.
Right.
How else do you have fun as a company?
I don't know. I bring my grill to the office on Friday sometime, and we do a little cookout after work. Or we had pizza the other day and got everybody here for team pictures.
I saw that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and then just once a year twice a year we do a couple dinners out, or we around the end of the year we went axe throwing and dinner, and or to one of the game places, the arcade places that have bowling and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But on a daily basis, it's just people want to be respected, have a good atmosphere to work in, and, be able to coach those people to do their job and reward them when they've done a great job. There's probably not a day that goes by that we don't get at least one or two calls or emails that saying that, we're so grateful that you took care of my mom. The driver was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing now is that I figured out the other day, our average driver is 57 years old. So I only have a few people, under 40. It's crazy. So we have 15 drivers, 9 of them are full-time, and 6 of them are part-time. So, and they're most like retired men and women, a second retirement job. And they're just working 2 or 3 days a week, which is great. they don't really care about overtime. They don't care about, and they're here to help people. It's a feel good type of job where that's a, you know, that happens every day.
Okay.
So the full timers and the younger people, you know, want the overtime.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What's your ratio of drivers to admin staff? Like, you know, your dispatchers, billing, schedulers.
Well, what's the ratio? We have 15 drivers and 3 admin.
Okay. And what are those 3 admin focused on?
The one is a office manager, that office sales manager, right? That does the bookings. She does some of the, she does the private pay billing. Then we have a dispatcher who does the scheduling as well as pulls trips in, you know, monitors the broker boards to gather trips, and one part-time person that does billing for the brokers.
Okay.
And then I have a new a driver EMT that has started with us as a part-time driver and part-time business development. And that's why you see all the new Facebook and LinkedIn ads and stuff like that. So
okay,
he's doing a great job.
Yeah, so you've been putting posts about your business on LinkedIn, which has been fun to see over the past, I feel like over the past few months now, you've started doing. Yeah. Helps get your name out there. I assume you want to go and win over new facilities in your area, attract new drivers as the business grows.
Right.
So LinkedIn is what you're doing now. Like, do you think there are other channels that you're going to start putting your business out on?
Well, LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, and then what's the? I think it's called Nextdoor.
Oh yeah.
That we use a little bit here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, I guess, popular in Cape Cod?
Yeah, it seems to be popular. You know, a lot of small businesses on it, and people looking there for, you know, when I look at it, it's either some, you know, coyote walk by a Ring doorbell or somebody looking for a painter. You know, it's that kind of local business, right? So yeah, we could get some work there.
Okay.
Because it's a constant. You're constantly out there because people don't really look for us until they need us. Because they're constantly saying, "Oh, we never heard of you." Well, you didn't need us before. You know, you didn't have anybody in a wheelchair. You weren't, you know, you could drive, you could do all those things yourself. And or I didn't know this service was available. I'm like, well, you didn't need it.
Yeah. So this is like the long-term game.
Yeah.
Make sure they know you so that as soon as they need you, oh yeah, Prime Medical Transport.
Right.
Yeah. Pat, what are you looking most forward to over the next half year?
The thing that I'm looking forward to is hiring a general manager. And then stepping back a little bit.
Okay.
Which will happen, you know, we grow a little bit more, hand over some responsibilities on a day-to-day basis so that we can do a little bit more big picture work going forward.
And what are some of those big picture initiatives you're thinking of?
That's a secret.
That's your secret sauce, huh?
That's our secret sauce. No, just more growth. You know, we'll see how that Traversa chair works, and if that catches on, then I think that'll be a game changer.
Yeah,
across the industry.
Yeah. The Traversa by Broda chair. Yeah, allowing you to do stretcher trips with one person instead of 2 people. Like, that'll be huge.
Right. Yeah. And then see with the ambulance companies do to try to, they're not going to be very happy.
Yeah, because you'll be taking stretcher work away from the ambulance companies. Yeah.
Right. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens there. Yeah.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
I know.
I want to do story time.
Okay.
Over the past 11 years, I'm sure you've seen all sorts of crazy and interesting things running an NEMT business. Can you, I don't know, maybe pick one or two of the most like interesting sort of experiences with passengers or payers that you've worked with, just anything you want to share with the audience, of like, wow, when you've been doing this 11 years, you've really seen it all.
I don't know if I've seen it all yet. I hope not, I hope I don't see much of it, but, some of it's the medical emergency that happens while you're transporting. Those are situations that you just have to be prepared for, or a car breakdown, and those are just part of the business. You have to be ready, car gets a flat and they're in the middle of traffic going to Boston, and it's, now that, or they break down in the tunnel. We've had all that happen.
What did you do when that happened?
I get in the car and go. Get in the car and go so that we can try to rescue them as soon as possible, especially the person in the vehicle. And it's and try to get, if they can, get off the road or get someplace cool. It always happens on the wrong day, so it's no matter what. But knock on wood, the vehicles are a little better now. We're headed it using the Toyotas and the Chryslers. The Dodge had a lot of problems.
Okay. Any one particular crazy story that comes to mind?
I'm trying to think. I got a call from this young guy once about starting a new NEMT software company. That was a crazy call.
A dashingly handsome
young man says, "Hey, it's all good things."
Yeah.
All those other things happen. All that, you get someplace and somebody doesn't come to the door. And you just don't. You have a feeling about it, and so we call rescue, and have a what do they call it? A wellness check, and then they open the door and the person's lying on the floor. So you save somebody maybe from lying on the floor for days or something. And or you get somewhere and it's somebody that you regularly take, and we take her to church on Sunday, or we take her to appointments, and you get there and she's just not right. So you call rescue and you're able to help them out. Or some of the best stories are people that we can help that nobody else will help them. So we've acquired some equipment that allows us to do that. We don't have a big staff, but we have some experienced DMTs, and so we've got two motorized stair chairs. So we got a guy in Plymouth that with lung cancer, and needs to go out for treatments, and he's got 8 steps going into the house, so the other companies won't take him out. So he couldn't get there. So, we go with 2 people and they put him in the stair chair, and it's a motorized chair, goes down, up and down the steps on a track. and you're able to help him live, you know, an extra year or whatever by getting his treatments.
That's awesome. One thing, sort of large theme I'm taking away from you, Pat, is that you treat your employees like assets. And that's sort of the success. You know, you measure your metric by your employees. You have fun with your employees. It's a fun company to work for. Like, the things that keep you going through are all the good experiences you've had that your employees have had helping out your clients and customers. So it's about having a team that you treat right and you cherish. Is the big takeaway I'm getting here. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Pat, thanks a ton for your time.
Run, Bambi, run!
Awesome.
You're too funny.